Hello and welcome to Paraprofessionals as Partners. My name is Amanda Zbacnik, and I'm a professor of special education at the University of Wisconsin-Superior. This is my 11th year at UW Superior. I teach courses in undergraduate and graduate special education, along with courses for early childhood special education. Before working at the university and as a previous special educator, I worked with individuals in multiple disability categories, such as intellectual disabilities, other health impairments, emotional behavioral disorders, specific learning disabilities, autism spectrum disorder, and multiple disabilities. As a high school special educator, I focused on transition for students with special needs and collaboration with multiple stakeholders, such as therapists, paraprofessionals, and community transition agencies. I've also volunteered in equine assisted therapeutic activities. I've been involved in Wisconsin's Council for Exceptional Children for the past 8 years, and have co-authored the book Educators for Diverse Classrooms, a case study approach to equity and inclusion in education. I currently live over the bridge from Superior in Esco, Minnesota with my husband Tom, sons Brody and Maddox, Nico, a shelter cat, a leopard gecko named Maximus, and a lionhead rabbit named May. I want to thank you for making time in your schedule to listen and view this presentation today, as without smooth interactions among paraprofessionals, being able to serve students with disabilities becomes extremely difficult, maybe even impossible. There are 4 outcomes that this presentation will strive to touch upon today. Regarding the first outcome, clear roles and responsibilities lead to students feeling more valued, emotionally supported, encouraged, and motivated to learn. And I think vice versa, in every job I've had, having the adult feel confident in their roles and purpose on the job leads to an overall better work environment as well. For the second outcome, we're going to examine how special education teachers' knowledge of inclusive practices, legal requirements, the fun paperwork that is required, and strategies to support students with diverse needs all have an effect on their ability to lead, even if co-teaching, a team most conducive to the success and the sense of belonging for every student that the IEP team works with. For the third outcome, when doing some of the research around the challenges in schools, the initial list that surfaced was extensive, around 25 topics. Parental engagement, burnout, /funding, behavior management, and lack of resources are just a few of the challenges. For purposes of this presentation, we are looking at taking a micro look at relationships among paraprofessionals and students, paraprofessionals and teachers, and paraprofessionals' relationship on the IEP team. And again, I also want to acknowledge that sometimes there are challenges among paraprofessionals too. Something that, having worked with 4 full-time and 1 half-time para at a point in my teaching career, I realized that being able to address conflicts that can arise among adult professionals is another part of what special educators need to do sometimes. And for the 4th point, I will share a few practical steps that I'm hoping you can apply directly to your classrooms after this presentation. And if not by the end of the school year, perhaps for the next academic year. Now, I want to take a moment to acknowledge that paraprofessional is only one term used by school districts as a title for the phenomenal individuals who can support students with disabilities. Looking at this list, there may be some that I actually missed. However, regardless of the title, knowing that these individuals, when feeling confident in their skills for assisting students with disabilities, should all have the title of awesome. Since the 1990s, legislation has fueled changes in special education, leading to an increased reliance of paraprofessionals to support students with disabilities. The recent legislation mandates that students with disabilities be educated alongside their peers with access to the general education curriculum and instruction, thus resulting in paras going into regular education classrooms to provide support for students with disabilities to be successful. No Child Left Behind morphed into ESSA, the Every Student Succeeds Act, leading to qualifications for paraprofessionals. This meaning that both teachers and paraprofessionals meet state certification and licensure criteria. For Wisconsin's Department of Public Instruction, a high school diploma and 2 years of post-secondary education, so 48 credits, or having an AA degree are the requirements. In the state of Minnesota, because UW Superior is right on the border, a minimum of an associate's degree or higher, and a passing score and approved formal assessment is what Minnesota's Department of Education requires. Often it's the Parapro assessment. It's important to note that paraprofessional qualifications, similar to teacher certification requirements, vary from state to state. It's also interesting to note that in 1975, prior to the passing of the Education of All Handicapped Children Act, PL 94-142, there was talk of the need for paraprofessionals instead of special education teachers. Special education teachers won out because students with disabilities deserve highly trained teachers. However, if you look at what's going on in schools today, it seems that we have come full circle. Parents, special educators, and general educators collaborating for the good of all students. Still, I do want to state that for paraprofessionals, consider that associate's degree could be in any content area: science, arts, business administration, dental hygiene, engineering, nursing, etc. What does this mean? Oftentimes, this can lead to paraprofessionals who crave more understanding about how to best meet the needs of the students that they work with, or sometimes the basic understanding of the characteristics of disability categories. The first clip on this slide is from 10 years ago, which is not that long ago in the history of special education, but also 40 years after the passing of PL 94-142 in 1975. On your own time, I'm encouraging you to please view the included videos on this slide. Now, what I appreciate about the first clip is the self-advocacy the student uses for addressing how he felt discriminated against. Students and all professionals need a voice when they see or feel a challenge happening before their very eyes. And for the second clip, it looks at the inclusion of students with disabilities. What's interesting about this video is that you do not see Noah's paraprofessional at all in the general education classroom, only interaction with his classmates. It's actually a great segue into our next topic on supporting students' independence. For point number 1, the roles and responsibilities can look like obtaining the student's attention before giving a direction or talking with the student, and allowing enough time for the student to respond. For point 2, teaching curriculum of social skills, money management, communication, health and nutrition, personal hygiene, and safety are just a few functional life skills that come to mind. For number 3, a paraprofessional can support student learning in a work experience program. Now, from my high school teaching experience, I had students placed at a cabinetry business, in a library, at McDonald's, and an auto mechanic shop, and at a child care center. For challenging behaviors, paraprofessionals can go over social stories, follow a behavior intervention plan, or look to redirect behavior that is not helpful to learning. Then for facilitating interactions, buddy systems can be encouraged for school activities, as well as for activities before and or after school. Encouraging a student with a disability to share about their interests or talents certainly goes a long way in interactions. Last, personal care can relate to a lot of things. The following come to mind: self-regulation / mental health and well-being, hygiene-related activities like brushing one's teeth and showering, and encouraging the student to advocate for themselves when communicating with teachers and peers, for example. I feel like I went in depth on what this could look like a little bit on the last slide, but I just want to point out a few more examples. Providing multiple means of representation. For example, this can mean creating opportunities for students to reflect and build on their prior knowledge. For example, if knowing a student enjoys woodworking, connect this to measurement in math class. For documentation and data collection, this may need to occur as part of a data collection portion for a functional behavioral assessment. Frequency and duration of certain behaviors over a set period of time. Last, thinking back on the many students that I had the privilege of working with on my special education caseload, many were challenged by staying organized. And the ability to be organized is a lifelong skill that without it, many of us would not be able to function through our daily lives without feeling super stressed. So paraprofessionals can encourage students to write down assignments, color code folders, or use graphic organizers to help with completion of bigger assignments. Next, before you dive into the 1.5-minute video clip provided below, I'm encouraging you to take a look at these 3 pictures. Is the proximity to the student appropriate? After watching the video, you may have noticed that from the youngest learners to the oldest learners, paraprofessionals can ask student guiding questions to have them think on their own versus simply providing an answer. And you'll also notice the paraprofessional providing praise for a student response with, "See, I knew you knew it." So we have shared things that paraprofessionals can do. It's also equally important to point out things that a paraprofessional may not perform. So elaborating a bit more, paras may not have full responsibility for the supervision and planning of activities in the classroom. They may not prepare class lesson plans and initiate instructions. They can't grade subjective or essay tests or assign grades to students. And they cannot substitute for certified teachers unless he or she possesses the appropriate substitute teacher certification and is hired as a substitute. For teachers and paraprofessionals working together, different tasks require different teacher roles and paraprofessional roles. So in the area of instruction, the teacher can deliver whole class, small group, and one-to-one individualized instruction. And the paraprofessional can reinforce the lessons and skills introduced by the teacher or carry out individual and small group instruction directed by the teacher. And certainly when the paraprofessional has been explicitly trained to deliver a specific instructional format. In the area of planning, teachers plan the lessons and determine which instructional procedures will be used, and the paraprofessional carries out the teacher's plans and reports to the teacher about student progress. So certainly paraprofessionals work closely with teachers to help manage the classroom, provide one-to-one support to students, assist with lesson planning, and paraprofessionals may assist the teacher and student under the supervision of the teacher, and should not provide ongoing direct instruction themselves, particularly without direct ongoing involvement by the teacher. Continuing in the tasks that paraprofessionals and teachers work together on. For behavior management, the teacher can observe and analyze student behavior, collect the data, collaborate with others to create functional behavioral assessments and behavior intervention plan, and implement behavior plan and other classroom management systems. The paraprofessional can also observe and report student behavior and assist with implementation of any behavior plan that's in place for the student or other classroom management systems. When working with families, teachers initiate the written and verbal contacts, conferences, and shares about student progress. Paraprofessionals can participate in conferences or other meetings with parents as appropriate and when invited by the teacher or supervisor. And last, for assessment, teachers administer, score, and interpret both formal and informal tests and reports, and they report the results to the necessary persons. And the paraprofessional can also administer both informal and routine progress monitoring probes with prior training and records the results for the teacher to review and share. So Paraprofessionals absolutely have an important role in supporting students who exhibit challenging behaviors. They're often called upon to prevent, manage, and de-escalate challenging behaviors, which may include include the implementation of the student's behavior intervention plan. And a little bit more about interaction with parents or guardians. Parents can act as a liaison between teachers and parents, offering updates on student progress and facilitating communication. Challenges in today's classrooms. Read the first island image. Question. Have we progressed from a time when children with disabilities were shut away from society to the present day when we use the myth of inclusion to mask the fact that we are still not truly creating schools to meet the needs of all children effectively? What does true inclusion look like? For the second image, we have a guardian, super magnet, stuck like glue, and hovercraft angels. Are these individuals, and let's assume the angels are also paraprofessionals, are they helping or hovering? Now I know that these images are comics and therefore meant to be a bit comical, but we are going to dive a bit more into the implications of the challenges of each. Within the student-paraprofessional relationship, here are the top 8 reported challenges that students have with the paraprofessional or paraprofessionals that work with them. Separation from classmates, unnecessary dependence, interference with peer interaction, insular relationships, feeling stigmatized, interference with teacher engagement, loss of personal control, and may provoke problem behaviors. Now, I want to bring these challenges to light because the Big 8 could be the focus for conversations with paraprofessional teams and how they would rank themselves on the topics of separation, dependence, interference, the Velcro effect, stigmatism, etc. And one of the most impactful things you can have middle school and high school students in special education engage in is a self-reflection on these elements too. For example, stating, I am physically separate from my classmates for an appropriate amount of time. Strongly agree, disagree, strongly disagree. Let's explore the Velcro effect. Research shows that some students that receive one-on-one support from one paraprofessional have fewer social relationships with peers and less independence than those students who do not receive this type of support. Exclusive relationships can develop, often mothering that the student doesn't like or want. Paras and oftentimes teachers seem to be unaware of the harm they may be causing to student independence in the areas of functional, academic, and social development. So to illustrate too, there's Giangreco and Breyer found in their study that paras assigned to individual students reported spending 86% of their time within 3 feet of their assigned student. Now, to an outside party looking in on the situation, this might raise some warning flags as to whether this is a healthy situation, if the goal is to help these students gain independence and develop friendships with their peers in natural settings. Possibly the bigger issue is that fewer than 15% of the paras in the study indicated an actual concern that this unusual proximity to students for so much of their time at school might be unnecessary or interfere with teacher and peer interactions. So as mentioned in the prior slide, doing a survey option, if given to both the student and the paraprofessional, and it shows a mismatch of perceptions, this can actually lead to the opportunity for some healthy changes and healthy conversations. So what can we do? Some proactive steps. Peers can assist their classmate with a disability by helping read directions for classroom assignments, gathering classroom materials, and or opening doors or moving furniture to accommodate a wheelchair, for example, or might act as a buddy during emergencies or fire drills. Moving away from having one paraprofessional with one student all day is best practice. It reduces potential for the student to over-rely on any one adult. Plus, in cold and flu season, If one of the paraprofessionals is out sick, it's very good to have another adult who knows the student and can navigate through the school day with them. Now, some of the videos showed ways to foster independence by asking guiding questions, providing students with space that allows them to freely interact with peers. And for age-appropriate input, I highly recommend ensuring that the student's voice is heard as often as possible. Far too frequently, students are not asked to the table until conversations about transition into life after school are occurring. Students, even in kindergarten, absolutely can communicate their strengths, needs, and preferences. On this slide, I want to point out that of the 6 areas for consideration, there will be different levels of paraprofessional support needed to assist the student in each area. IEP team should never assume that the support in each area is equal for a student. Again, it comes back to what the student needs. You may have a student with extreme medical needs. For example, a student with limited mobility and the need for a nurse to assist with catheter care, but needs minimal assistance with academics, only having 1 resource period a day. Or there may be a student with conduct disorder who needs a paraprofessional around throughout the entire day to help redirect any challenging behaviors that arise. A decision-making process helps to ensure that unintended negative outcomes of para support are avoided. So I'm encouraging you to think of a certain student who receives paraprofessional services and write down the answers to the following questions on this slide. Schools want to prevent an over-reliance on paraeducators and potential pitfalls, but also need to assure levels of support are being provided to meet IEP goals, particularly when students are in inclusive settings with less direct contact with special education teachers. Everyone needs to be on the same page with a focus on student goals and the role of the paraeducator across the student's entire day with respect to the questions on the slide. Once the questions are answered, then take steps to create a plan. The plan should indicate where, when, and how a paraeducator will provide support. Should be specific and identify exactly what the para needs to do, natural supports in ways that peers will be used to increase socialization, how independence will be encouraged, and the amount of time a para will be needed. Last, I want to emphasize the check portion of this pie. These plans should ideally be checked at minimum annually. This check could be done in alignment with the IEP meeting or prior to the start of the school year. I did the latter choice. Why? Because one hopes that paraprofessional service time can be reduced a little bit each year. However, I'm also realistic that sometimes traumatic events can happen in a student's life, actually leading to an increase in paraprofessional time. Again, it all comes back to the needs of the student. I'm not going to read through this entire list, but want to elaborate a bit on a few of them. Monday morning meetings. This was a 10-minute designated chunk of time before school started for the special educator to just talk with the paraprofessionals about the week ahead. For example, IEP meetings, if someone was going to be gone for an appointment or conference, field trips the student might have, and or any celebrations or concerns that paraprofessionals had. When this was implemented, the paras that I worked with were so grateful. Regarding designated learning opportunities during in-service days. So often paraprofessionals are required at in-service days, but there aren't a whole lot of trainings for them to attend. And there's only so much straightening up of the classroom one can do. So as someone who wanted the paraprofessionals that I worked with to gain more knowledge about characteristics of different disabilities, I actually put together 3-hour-long informational texts and videos about 9 different types of disabilities. These 20-minute segments on autism, intellectual disabilities, EBD for the first in-service day, OHI with an ADHD focus, specific learning disabilities, and visual impairments for the second in-service day, and traumatic brain injury, physical impairment, and hearing impairments for the third. So the characteristics and tips for inclusion sections were reported as one of the most impactful trainings from the paraprofessionals. The next proactive step is to make sure each paraprofessional has a schedule specific to what their day looks like with the student or students. When paraprofessionals understand their roles and expectations, they can better prepare for each day. And each paraprofessional made a copy of the schedule for me. So I always had awareness of where they were at or with and what students, whether in world history, out on the work experience site, or assisting with lunch. Now, a little side note, high school schedules can be fairly consistent with a little smattering of specialists. But in the elementary school, each day may look very different. So the creation of the schedule may be daily, Monday through Friday for elementary, and Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday with a wacky Wednesday schedule for high school level. It is so important to have a clear daily schedule, and especially if a substitute is ever called in to work with a student as well. This slide is just more justification of the importance of clear expectations, communication, and the importance of promoting continued learning opportunities. As with anything that changes, expect that there will be questions at first, but encourage that with continual implementation, the student will be better off in the long run. I once had a professor, when I was doing my master's program, state that special educators should share the message with paraprofessionals that your job is to work your way out of a job. With this in mind, I'm encouraging IEP teams to take a close look at paraprofessional services being provided from year to year as the student progresses through the K-12 education. If a reduction is not being seen in service hours, I would be a little wary about whether or not the student is developing independent living skills. In closing, paras are needed to foster independence, support the students to do the work, facilitate interaction with other adults, and more importantly, with peers. This includes getting along with others as a critical life skill and understanding that accommodations can help students. To teach is to touch a life forever. I want to thank each of you for your commitment to the students and the adults that you work with during the school day. The landscape of education, in particular special education, is not an easy one, though I do hope that involvement in special education is the toughest job you'll ever love. Thank you.